Boeing's Starliner spacecraft recently completed its return to Earth after a problematic mission that was intended to carry the astronauts back from the International Space Station. Unfortunately, due to multiple technical issues, the spacecraft was deemed unsafe for human travel, forcing NASA to extend the astronauts' stay on the space station by several months. This event marked a significant moment for Boeing and the ongoing challenges it faces in establishing itself as a reliable provider for crewed space missions. The mission began on June 5, 2023, when Starliner was launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida. This marked a key milestone for Boeing, as it was the spacecraft's first test flight carrying astronauts. Starliner, part of NASA's Commercial Crew Program, was designed to provide an alternative to SpaceX's Crew Dragon for transporting astronauts to and from the ISS. Boeing's contract with NASA was worth $4.2 billion compared to SpaceX's $2.6 billion, and the company had been under pressure to deliver after years of delays and technical setbacks. Soon after launch, however, Starliner began experiencing issues. The capsule suffered helium leaks, which are essential for pushing fuel into the propulsion system, and several of its thrusters malfunctioned. Engineers at Boeing and NASA spent months analyzing these issues and attempting to find a solution. Despite Boeing's insistence that Starliner could safely bring the astronauts back to Earth, NASA ultimately decided that the spacecraft was too risky to use for the return journey. As a result, NASA turned to SpaceX's Crew Dragon, which has already completed 9 successful crewed missions for NASA. This decision extended Wilmore and Williams' planned 8-day stay on the International Space Station to 8 months, with their new return date set for February 2025. In the meantime, SpaceX will launch its next Crew Dragon vehicle in September 2023, and Wilmore and Williams will return on that spacecraft at the end of its mission. Although the astronauts did not return in Starliner, the spacecraft completed its journey back to Earth autonomously. On September 16, 2023, Starliner undocked from the International Space Station and began its descent. The spacecraft re-entered Earth's atmosphere and successfully landed at White Sands Space Harbor in New Mexico after a 6-hour flight. Parachutes were deployed to slow the capsule's descent, ensuring a smooth landing. The successful return of Starliner, even without its crew, provided Boeing with some relief after months of technical challenges. It was a chance for the company to demonstrate that, despite its setbacks, the spacecraft could safely return from orbit. However, the issues with this mission are part of a larger trend of difficulties for Boeing, which has struggled in recent years to repair its reputation after a series of high-profile failures in both its aviation and space divisions. Boeing's Starliner program has been delayed multiple times over the years. The spacecraft's development has been fraught with technical problems, leading to several postponed missions. Starliner's first uncrewed test flight took place in 2019, but it was unsuccessful due to a software error that caused the spacecraft to miss its intended orbit. A second uncrewed test flight in 2022 also encountered technical difficulties, further delaying the program. Despite these setbacks, NASA has remained committed to the Starliner program. NASA has expressed confidence that Boeing will eventually resolve the issues with Starliner. Bill Nelson, the NASA administrator, stated that he is 100% certain that Starliner will fly with astronauts again in the future. NASA officials have assured that both astronauts are in good spirits and are fully equipped for their extended stay. In July 2024, a resupply mission delivered additional gear and personal items for the astronauts, ensuring they have everything they need for the remainder of their mission. While Boeing has managed to bring the Starliner capsule back to Earth safely, another Boeing-led project is drawing criticism: the Space Launch System. As we all know, NASA is no longer building rockets and launching missions on its own. These days, they rely on contractors to do the heavy lifting. Instead of building rockets in-house, NASA funds private companies to develop the technology and carry out these missions. Unfortunately, this doesn't always go as planned, and one of the most problematic companies NASA works with is Boeing. Boeing, despite its reputation as one of the oldest and most experienced aerospace contractors, has consistently underperformed in NASA projects. The most glaring example is the Space Launch System, or SLS, a rocket designed to carry humans back to the moon as part of NASA's Artemis program. While you might think Boeing's experience would make them the perfect fit for such an important mission, the reality has been far from smooth. Every Boeing-led NASA project, including the SLS, has been plagued by delays, cost overruns, and quality control issues. Boeing was given the task of constructing key components of the SLS, including the core stage and the exploration upper stage. These components are crucial for sending large payloads and astronauts beyond Earth's orbit. However, their execution has been criticized heavily. A 2023 report by NASA pointed out that Boeing's work failed to meet NASA's quality standards. Issues like faulty welds in the liquid oxygen tank of the rocket have led to costly delays. The Space Launch System was already criticized for being expensive and not very innovative, even before Boeing's involvement made things worse. The rocket is designed to take astronauts back to the moon. However, the costs have skyrocketed, and delays have piled up, especially because of Boeing's struggles with quality control and workforce issues. Boeing was responsible for building the core stage and the exploration upper stage, but problems with welds and untrained workers have led to delays and extra expenses. What's ironic about NASA's Space Launch System is that it was supposed to be a direct competitor to SpaceX's Starship. Both rockets aim to take humans to the moon and beyond, but the reality is that the two are worlds apart. One of the most significant differences between the two rockets is the cost per launch. SLS costs over $2 billion per launch, largely because it is an expendable rocket, meaning that it can only be used once before being discarded. This is a costly approach, especially when compared to Starship, which is designed to be fully reusable. SpaceX has stated that each Starship launch could cost as little as $2 million once operational, although more conservative estimates place it at around $100 million per launch. Even at the higher estimate, Starship is still significantly more cost-effective than SLS. The high cost of the SLS is due in part to the outdated technology it uses. The rocket's RS-25 engines are repurposed from the Space Shuttle program, which ended in 2011. While reliable, these engines are expensive to build and maintain. In contrast, Starship uses SpaceX's new Raptor engines, which are designed to be cheaper, lighter, and more powerful than the RS-25 engines. Another key difference is reusability. Starship is designed to be fully reusable, meaning both its Super Heavy booster and the Starship can be recovered and flown again. This significantly reduces costs and allows for rapid turnaround between launches. SLS, on the other hand, is completely expendable. Each SLS launch results in the loss of the entire rocket, making it a far less sustainable option for future space missions. When it comes to raw performance, Starship again comes out ahead. The SLS Block 1 has a payload capacity of about 95 metric tons to low Earth orbit, whereas Starship can carry between 100 and 150 metric tons. Additionally, Starship's Super Heavy booster is expected to generate 72 meganewtons of thrust, compared to SLS's 39 meganewtons. Most importantly, the SLS has only launched once in 2022, while Starship has already completed 4 test launches and is gearing up for another. The launch is now expected later this fall, and the earliest it could happen is on September 22nd, the first official day of fall. This new date pushes the launch past mid-September, extending the gap between Starship's 4th and 5th test flights to nearly 5 months, as the last flight occurred in early June. This delay marks one of the longest intervals between Starship launches in recent history. One of the biggest reasons for the delay in Starship's 5th test flight is the slow pace of the FAA's licensing process. In early August, SpaceX announced that Starship and its Super Heavy booster were ready to fly, pending regulatory approval. Yet, despite the hardware being prepared, the FAA has not granted the necessary launch license, and now we're in September, still waiting. This isn't the first time SpaceX has faced delays due to the FAA. In fact, the tension between SpaceX and the FAA has been a recurring theme, especially with the launch of Starship. There have been times when we were more excited to hear that the FAA had granted the launch license than the actual announcement of the Starship launch date itself. This is because no matter how ready SpaceX is to launch, if the FAA doesn't grant that license, the rocket isn't going anywhere. Musk has been clear about his frustrations, publicly criticizing the FAA's space division. Even back in 2021, Musk stated that the FAA's regulatory structure was fundamentally broken and designed for a handful of expendable launches per year, adding that under such a regime, humanity will never get to Mars. The recent explosion of a Falcon 9 booster has further strained the already tense relationship between SpaceX and the FAA. After the booster tipped over and burst into flames upon landing on a drone ship, the FAA swiftly launched an investigation. This has added more delays, not only impacting the Falcon 9 program, but potentially influencing SpaceX's other operations, like Starship. What's surprising is that rocket explosions aren't exactly rare in the space industry, and other companies have had similar mishaps without triggering the same level of regulatory scrutiny. Yet, when SpaceX's Falcon 9 experienced a booster failure during landing, the FAA immediately launched an investigation, grounding future Falcon 9 launches until the issue was resolved. What makes this more frustrating for SpaceX is that the FAA seems to be focusing heavily on this single incident, overlooking the remarkable track record of the Falcon 9. As of September 2024, Falcon 9 has completed over 60 launches this year alone and has set world records for consecutive successful landings and missions. The rocket has logged 299 successful landings and continues to boast one of the highest success rates in space history. Looking at how SpaceX is often stuck waiting for months to get a launch license, it's hard to see how Musk plans to reach his goal of 1,000 launches per year. Every time SpaceX needs approval from the FAA, it creates a delay, even when the mission is fully prepared. This is a big problem for a company aiming to increase its launch frequency quickly. To fix this, Musk has been pushing for a portfolio license. Instead of needing a separate FAA approval for each individual launch, the portfolio license would cover multiple launches under one permit. This change would allow SpaceX to move forward with launches more freely, without constantly waiting for new permissions. That's all for today's update. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.